All right. Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right, we're going to wait a few moments for more folks to join. So as you are joining, please add your name, where you are joining from, as well as your product or brand in the chat on the right. Welcome, welcome. Happy Thursday. So excited to be here with you all. All right, so let's take the banner off. All right, hello everyone. Welcome, welcome. So my name is Erica Thompson. I'm the Senior Director of Creative Product here at Suna, and welcome to another edition of our Holiday Content Webinar Series. As a reminder, we are going to be live every Wednesday. Well, I know today is Thursday, but we're going to be live every Wednesday from now until October, where we'll be sharing tips and tricks from e-commerce experts and brand marketers. Sorry, I must have been out of breath saying that, so sorry about that, everyone. Welcome, Emily and Steven. Hello, you guys. How are you?
Awesome. Thanks so much for having us.
Yep, so I know you guys are joining from Mind Groove Macarta, so thank you so much for being here. Would you guys mind sharing a little bit about what Mind Groove Macarta does?
Absolutely. Well, first, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Stephen Reagan. I'm the Chief Digital Retail Officer here at Mind Group Macarta. With me is Emily McWright, our Creative Director. So really excited to talk to you all today. Mind Group Macarta is a global performance marketing and commerce company. And so we've been around for over 20 years collectively. And we handle all things when it comes to marketplace, kind of performance, advertising, creative, analytics, D2C, pretty much anything that requires some thought, some data-backed sort of insights to help connect brands with customers around the world. We have a couple of slides here coming up that'll give you a little more flavor of kind of who we are, where we are, and where we sit. But happy to be calling in from Suna's backyard in Denver, Colorado.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stephen. And you know, it's after Labor Day, and the holidays, whether we like it or not, they're coming. They're fast approaching. And you know, all of our brands are asking us at Suna, like, what can we do to make sure our Amazon listings, our Walmart listings are all ready for the holiday rush? So I'm super excited for this presentation and definitely excited to learn some tips and tricks from you both and your team. So for folks who just joined, please, if you can put your name and where you're joining from and your brand in the chat. And then if you have any questions, please put those in the chat as well. And then at the end of the presentation, we are going to be answering all of your questions. All right, fantastic. All right, let's take it away.
All right, thanks again, Erica. So yeah, for all those new folks, Stephen Reagan here, Chief Digital Retail Officer. With me, Emily McWright, our Creative Director. And we are with Mind Groove Macarta. So Mind Groove Macarta is a global performance marketing, retail media, and data tech company. We accelerate business growth through data-driven marketing, creative, and commerce. You'll definitely pick up on data being a kind of an infiltrated aspect of everything that we do as we get through the slides here, even as it relates to design and content experiences. We, as I mentioned, we're in Suna's backyard in Rhino, the neighborhood of Denver. We are fortunate to have boots on the ground, as they say, kind of across the globe. Our headquarters are San Diego, California. Again, sitting here in Denver, we have offices in Amsterdam, London, Madrid, Mexico City, and Sao Paulo, Brazil. Wanted to share just a little bit of the brand partners that we're happy to work with. You'll kind of see here, runs the gamut in terms of categories and price points and all sorts of different segments. So the team here certainly has a lot of fun getting to work with kind of big and small brands and everyone in between all around the world. So what we'll be going over today is creative capabilities with a particular kind of focus comparing Walmart and what's comparatively more, I'd say, well-known or mainstream, maybe at this point in Amazon. We'll talk about sort of what constitutes content completeness from the channels themselves, and then our sort of adaptation of those best practices and style guides, if you will. talk a little bit about prioritization of content creation and what some of the assets you consider, but also what some of the things you probably are looking at today or have access to today, and how you can sort of leverage that to inform your creative strategies. And then lastly is kind of some fun and less costly or just kind of simple ways to make content more festive as we do head into Q4 kind of crazy madness that it is Q4, but certainly from a seasonal changeover, ways to make the content more festive. All right, now Emily's going to take it away.
Thanks, Stephen. Like Stephen said, I'm Emily McGright. I'm the creative director here at Mind Groove Macarta, and I oversee our copy and design strategies for our marketplace partners. So we're going to jump into the creative capabilities between Amazon and Walmart, what some of the similarities are, some of the differences, and just things to look out for and how you're approaching your content on each of the platforms. But first, the big question is, you might be asking, like, where do I need content? It's a trick question. It's anywhere and everywhere. You only have so many touch points available to you on these marketplaces to really make your brand and products stand out. So you want to make sure that you're taking hold of those opportunities anywhere that you can. So in terms of Amazon creative capabilities, it runs from the product page to the brand store into ads. And so on the product page, you have an opportunity for content in your product images, and that's above the fold with some videos. And then you also have opportunities to showcase your brand through a brand story, and then the A+ content that's lower on the page. And then you have the brand stores, which is your dedicated storefront for your brand, where you're able to really tell your brand story, merchandise, make sure that you're completing that user experience on the platform for your brand. And then everything that kind of drives it all together is through the ad efforts that ultimately will drive back to your brand store and your product pages. So that's through sponsored ads, DSP ads, you have your Fire TV and IMDb and Twitch. Then you also have your podcast and streaming radio ads. And then on the flip side with Walmart, definitely some similarities, but also some large differences. And you can definitely see it if you've shopped on Walmart, if you're already in Walmart with your brand and products. And you can even see in the examples here, it's a little bit more rigid in terms of the capabilities, but we really are anticipating it to quickly catch up to Amazon as it's proving to do so. So on your product pages, you have the images and also the video spots. But then you also have enhanced content. So that's the equivalent to A+ content. Walmart doesn't like to call it that, but it's also not hosted within the Walmart platform. It's hosted through a third-party like content syndication platform. So it is a little bit different, but you are able to add video and just the baseline level of this content, whereas with Amazon, video is only available in the premium A+ content portion. And then instead of the brand store, you have your brand shop and shelves. You'll see that example on the right here. It definitely is, like I said, a little bit more rigid. You are defined within your modules, but you'll see that the images obviously speak to what the brand shop and store is. And then you also are able to merchandise through brand shelves, which are technically like brand pages within your shop. And then you have your ads. So you have your display self-serve ads and your sponsored ads. You'll see some examples of those on the left little screenshot. And then obviously the biggest difference between Walmart and Amazon is that you have that in-store traffic component. So customers are able to actually go into more of a physical Walmart store, and they're everywhere. So you're able to feature your ads through a TV wall placement. So in the electronics section, have your content playing on all of the TVs in that section. And then also through other ad efforts in the in-store components. So whether that be in checkout or other areas of the store. And then you also have radio spots. And then one other different piece is the merchandising. So you do have category takeovers and homepage lockouts. So next is, we'll dive into the content completeness. So how are Amazon and Walmart like basically grading your product pages and your brand? And then what things should you keep in mind when you are building your product listings and making sure that they are complete and living up to the standards that Amazon and Walmart set? So for both Amazon and Walmart, they are marketplaces. They want to make sure customers are happy that they're buying products. So at the baseline level, they want to make sure that you are accurately representing the product that you're selling. They want to make sure that it's as relevant as possible and it's getting in front of the most relevant customers that it can. And so a big thing is just image quality, making sure that your images are clear, they're high resolution. For Amazon, it needs to be at least 1,000 by 1,000 pixels at the very minimum. The larger it goes, you have more features like you're able to zoom. They're just clearer, but the very minimum is 1,000 by 1,000. And then, like I said, just an accurate representation of the product. And then you also need to make sure you're filling all of the image into the slots.
I'll pick up there for Emily.
Thank you.
Our dog pound is we're a dog friendly office, as if that was not clear. Point being, the one of the most important aspects is comprehensive content. In particular, on both Amazon and Walmart, there are a number of places to add information about your brand or your products. Some of which is not even customer facing, but is incredibly important in terms of informing the channel, in this case Amazon or Walmart, and how to place your product for different search terms as customers are browsing and looking to find new products or even products that they do know.
Okay, jump back in. Thanks, Stephen. Having dogs in the office is a blessing and a curse for sure. But yeah, so you just want to make sure that you're accurately representing the products as best as you can. If even thinking about how you're shopping, if there's a listing that only has 2 images on it, you probably will be more inclined to, get a better feel of a product if it has those full amount of 6 images present. And then I think something important to note is that when you do include a video, you don't necessarily have to create one for every single product if that's just not feasible for your catalog size or just where you're at right now as a brand. You can definitely take a higher approach and go more at the category level and overall how-to, depending on what type of product you're selling. And then also you could just do it at a brand level, give everybody a taste of what your brand is and what you stand for, and what types of products that you offer. And then just make sure that you're filling each touch point through the page. They want to make sure that you're taking up every piece of real estate possible on the page. And then with Walmart, it's very similar. One key difference, though, is that you will see that it's more visual element heavy up at the top of the page. So the images are at the front and center, whereas on an Amazon listing, it's the images and copy are on the equal playing field at the top of the page. So with Walmart, you want to make sure that your images are clear, especially in apparel, making sure you have that 3:4 aspect ratio, just to show the overall model dimension and height. Make sure that you're using a JPEG file format. And something that's really key is studio lighting. So no harsh shadows, make sure it's clear. You're able to really see, in this example, you're able to see the texture, the stitching, and that your product's not getting manipulated in any way by having a low quality photo. And then again, you want to make sure you're filling up the number of image and video slots that are available. But the one key difference is you cannot use the same images as an Amazon listing. Amazon and Walmart want to, while they are very similar marketplaces in some ways, they do want to remain very separate. So you do need to make sure that the images that you're featuring on Amazon are slightly different on Walmart. You can slightly edit the text that's being overlaid on it, the order or the cropping, but those do need to have some sort of difference to them. And then something that also is key is knowing your category standards. So if you're selling skincare or you're selling apparel, the requirements might be different depending on what type of product you're selling. So just be sure that you understand what's being asked of you for the product category.
And one thing it's kind of goofy, but I've always loved to say it, is that our kind of approach to content optimization within Amazon or Walmart is these listings should pass the grandma tests. And what I mean by that is my grandmother should be able to make an informed purchase decision based on the image and the title alone. The rest of the content is gravy, and it's meant to be for indexing and SEO purposes. And I think to Emily's point earlier about kind of the experience on Walmart, it's even more that way with kind of the prioritization of creative imagery on the top of the detail page, where more of that copy lives a little bit lower down.
Absolutely. And then I'm going to pass it over to Steven, and he's going to go through how you should prioritize your content creation and things to keep in mind.
Awesome. So we really liken kind of creative strategy to even media planning and strategy. Really, it starts with, what do you want these people to do after they see? How do you want them to feel after they're exposed to your creative experience and content? So whether it's really honing in on kind of what's new and really top sellers, kind of getting people into your funnel, into your marketing funnel with that pinnacle flagship product. Other kind of opportunities are to expose them to the breadth of the catalog, showing that it's not just this one widget or this one type of skincare or pair of jeans, if you will, but hey, we've got shorts, we've got capris, we've got Bermuda shorts, the whole gamut. And then for kind of specific catalog priorities within your catalog, or things that require a little extra information, communication, things that are consumables in particular. It's a very sensitive purchase decision. Something goes on or in your body. You need to be very much communicating what to expect, what it is that's going into their body or on their body, or even things that are technical in nature, or higher price points. People are going to do a little bit more research and window shopping if they're spending $100 or more, or whatever their kind of personal threshold is. So these kind of just things to really think about is, what do you want them to take away after being exposed to this creative? Excuse me. So, where to look to inform some of these content priorities. Of course, as a brand, you've got your own budgets, you've got targets to hit, all those different things. But I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of information that you might be sitting on that can really help inform your creative strategy if you're looking in the right places. So if anybody here today is advertising on Amazon or on Walmart, that is kind of a treasure trove of information, where you can look at things like your search term data and really harvest that information to understand, what are people actually typing into the search bar on Amazon or Walmart before they ultimately see, click on, and purchase your product. And so, as a silly example, if somebody's constantly looking for, ugly jeans, as an example, I know people think my jeans are ugly. Bad example, but that's kind of the point here, is that you can extract so much about the voice of your consumer and sort of what it is they like or dislike, or how they're perceiving your brand, and then leaning into those things in terms of how do you position that within your creative experience and kind of content strategy. So of course, as understanding your brand creative and style guides, our goal is always to find this healthy marriage between content that screams the brand's voice, but also position in a way that's going to be relevant to the target consumer and the target marketplace at the right time. And excuse me, Emily touched on this a little bit earlier, but an important distinction is that your Amazon customer and your Walmart customer probably going to have a lot of overlaps, but at the same time going to have a lot of differences in sort of price points or budgets or household income, all sorts of different kind of variables. And so the important aspect there is trying to understand as much as you possibly can about your customers in each respective marketplace, because that will kind of dovetail into how do you become more and more relevant to customers who are on either or of those marketplaces. Some additional ways that customers are talking to you is review intelligence, crowd listening and things of that nature. But even on your Amazon and Walmart listings, we've developed a lot of analyses that can help you extract insights and sort of common phrases and almost a sentiment analysis based on your reviews. And so if people are often complaining about the price, which will happen, or they're complaining about a seal is broken or leaking, things like that, just all this is about understanding how to better set those expectations of what these customers are getting when they hit purchase and they get it same day, next day. And excuse me, kind of what Emily mentioned earlier is just making sure that these customers are having an excellent and appropriate customer experience. The seasonal context aspect, again, we're heading into the holidays. One thing to keep in mind here is, while it's finally cooling down here in Denver, it's still super hot over there in Palm Springs and down in Texas and Florida. So being on Amazon and Walmart, you are nationally distributed. So while there, of course, are kind of broad stroke weather patterns, just understand that if you are selling very high seasonal products, you might still have a big opportunity within the winter months that are colder here in Denver and just as warm in Florida, as an example. And again, more data, I think it's just, excuse me, really unpacking sort of all the different ways that customers are giving you signals and cues about your brand and product will help you kind of lean in from a creative perspective. One kind of quick example, we ran a campaign for a travel company a few months ago, and we understood by kind of analyzing audience data that our target audiences were overlapping with romance novel enthusiasts. And so where we took that information is within our creative experience on our static ads, where we had our tagline and a kind of a romantic couple on a beach type of a lifestyle photo, really to kind of lean into the fact that people are interested in romance novels. So let's give them something that's a little more friendly or familiar to them as we're trying to get them to click and, take action.
All right, and then I'm going to jump back in. So now that Stephen shed a little light on how you should approach your content prioritization, now moving on to picking the right assets for your product listing or your brand, and how you want to come across. So a huge thing to remember is that you only have a couple of seconds to capture someone's attention. Either they're immediately looking for your product, that's awesome, they're likely going to convert, or they're comparing you to other items that they're considering that might be similar, and you want to make sure that you are capturing their attention very quickly and really drawing them in throughout imagery and just your overall content on the page. So some key things that you want to make sure that you're answering throughout all of the touch points, but especially on the product pages, is that you're answering the key questions. So what are the benefits and features of the product? Are you offering a solution to a problem? You want to make sure that comes across not only in the imagery, but the text overlay really does support that as well. And then, like Stephen said before, passing the grandma test, is it really clear immediately what the product is and what it does? And then you also want to set expectations. They're not able to physically hold the product. They're not in store able to, see the texture or what the product is actually like or the size. So you want to make sure that they're fully going to understand as much as they can of what the product is that they're buying and spending their money on. You'll see that example on the right with the cheek tint. It's a cream blush. We're showing off the color with a swatch, also just the texture. It's clear that it's not a powder blush, it's cream. And then we use the text overlays to further support that and make sure it's front and center as to setting expectations for the customer. And then you also want to make sure you're creating a connection. So your assets are targeting a desired audience. Are you leaning more towards a younger demographic? Make sure that your models or your hand models are leaning younger and not necessarily just completely acing out another type of audience as well. And then never underestimate the use of UGC content, whether that's through influencers or just your typical users, making sure that you incorporate that, because that only weaves in greater loyalty. And people really do find a greater connection with somebody that's just like them using the product. And then also just lean into loyalty. Is your brand a highly recognizable one, or do you have a strong customer base? In that example, a few slides back with the Lee jeans, that Lee logo is front and center, but you're also showing off the texture and the stitching and the wash. So just making sure that if you do have a brand that's recognizable or a loyal following, that you're really driving home the brand as well, and that they are seeing the same brand across all channels that they might be shopping. And then you also just want to make sure that you're creating a consistent experience. So consider how your assets are going to be used across different channels, different touch points. So you want to make sure that the assets on your .com, they're also looking fairly similar, consistent to what you're using on Walmart or Amazon. People aren't necessarily staying in the same shopping channel. They're shopping around, figuring out where they can get it the fastest, the best deal, whatever it might be. But making sure that you have a consistent look, consistent message throughout each of these touch points is really paramount in not only creating trust with the customer that they're going to be getting the same product no matter where they go, but then also just making sure it's clear as to what the product is.
I think one other point on the consistency aspect is we've got a desktop versus a mobile, just really being mindful of the mobile experience in addition to the desktop experience. Certainly in our world, we're on a big screen all day, every day, but customers more often than not, I always shop on my, Amazon or Walmart app from my phone. So you'll see that a lot, I think, where text is so micro small, where people kind of are losing sight of that mobile experience. So it's something always to keep in mind.
Definitely. The biggest question that we definitely get asked, and it's a very valid one, is how do I know if my content is working? There are certain metrics and ways that we can test how the content's performing, and kind of give you some clues as to if you need to change your strategy at all or switch up the content. But some key metrics on both Amazon and Walmart. So you're able to see engagement rate in the Amazon brand store. You can see bounce rate and dwell time, seeing how long somebody's sticking around on a page, or if they're quickly leaving and going somewhere else. And then the biggest ones that everybody loves are conversion rate percentage and then sales. And then next is a content health audit. So that's something that we offer at Mindgroove Macarta. There's also ways to receive it through Amazon and Walmart, but it's a score judging on the completeness of your business and listings. And then they also will provide it on Amazon through your brand store as well, to show that you are, you have a high quality brand store, or you might have a medium brand store, and you might need to address some key things and suggestions that they give to boost up your health a bit more. And then some ways to test this out. So you can use that through A/B testing with A+ content, product images, ad creative, and just figure out what's really speaking to the consumers. And I think the biggest thing is also to keep an open mind. You might think that one thing is going to work, but you could notice that people are responding to something that you might not never have thought would be a strong performer. So just make sure that you keep an open mind and are willing to adjust and adapt, especially within each platform. And you'll see this example that was used. This is a skincare product. We did one that's more of a studio shot on the left, and it really drives home the ingredients, and then it's followed by the benefits. Whereas the version on the right, which we found spoke more to the customer, was leading with the benefits and then following it up with the ingredients. So really speaking more to that emotional connection with the customer.
One thing, Emily, just on the kind of measurement aspects, those key metrics, of course, there are unlimited ways and different data points to kind of look at. And these really just the most important, but I think it touches kind of metrics that are important for the CMOs and the marketing team. And then there's going to be, metrics that the finance and CFO really cares about. And that's kind of where the conversion rate is probably the most singular, most indicative kind of measure of content effectiveness. Because your traffic, is going to vary based on how much you're investing and those types of things. So that's kind of the equalizer in a lot of ways. And within the kind of testing parameters and capabilities, Amazon does have some like formal A/B test components, I think, with their A+ content. We are testing all the time, every which way, to kind of Emily's point about not marrying yourself to a particular creative or a particular message or keyword, things like that, and just really having that open mind. I think biggest reason there is this is a constantly, it's a living and breathing organism, both of these marketplaces. And so it's evolving the same way that the rest of the world is. And so these things change, it's important to be kind of fresh and current and always be open-minded again.
All right. And then how to make content festive. Obviously, we're heading into the holiday season, and it seems like the holiday season only gets longer and longer and longer every single year. But there's some simple ways that you can take even just your evergreen content and spruce it up a little bit. One thing that we hear a lot from brand partners is, I'll make it festive, but I don't want to make it cheesy. And that's completely valid. But there's just simple ways when you're doing a photo shoot is you can just add little uses of ribbon. You'll see in that bottom example. You can think about the textures in the backgrounds that you're using, or just subtle hints of color. You might go for more warmer colors or shades of red or deep greens. There's ways to definitely tone it down, but still acknowledge that, it's the holiday season and that's the time of year that we're in. And then next, getting the most out of evergreen assets. Maybe you're not in a position to do a holiday specific photo shoot, but there's ways that you can add little pops of color or overlays that, or even copy that speak to the holidays. So you'll see in that center example, we just overlaid a ribbon over a product shot, and that immediately made it look like a present. You can add the copy, something like "'Tis the Season," immediately speaks to the holidays and just what we're gearing towards. And then the last point is, don't forget the shopper behavior. So when you are creating holiday specific content and you might be positioning it more towards the type of product, consider that, some of your smaller products that might not be the best sellers throughout the year, like your travel sizes, your bundles, think about how people might be shopping for those. So could they be stocking stuffers? Would somebody be buying in bulk and buying gifts for like teachers or parties or whatever it might be? Or is it part of a larger set? So would somebody be shopping for a product you might not offer, but your product is complementary? So one of our partners, they sell backpacking meals. Somebody might be shopping for a camping enthusiast and be getting a portable stove, and they might be looking for some meals to complement that. So that's just an example, but think about how your product might play into a bigger piece of what somebody might be shopping for. All right, I'll open it up for questions.
Erica is our question.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, hello. Just moved from the stage. Thank you so much for that presentation. A lot of really great information there. Yeah, let's dive into some questions. So from the audience, if anybody has any questions or comments and they would love to ask Emily and Stephen, please put it in the chat. Looks like we have one here from Jose. Here, I'll show it here on the screen. So is an image carousel order enough to differentiate between Amazon and Walmart, or will Walmart suppress a listing if they're too similar?
It does have to be a little bit different. You could even crop it slightly differently, but just changing the order of the images won't necessarily be enough. And then Walmart can pull a listing if it is too similar.
Okay, good to know. I have some questions. I know you had a slide talking about different metrics as well as A/B testing. And so a question I have for you both is, how often should you be reviewing your metrics on both Amazon and Walmart? And how often do you recommend folks A/B test content?
It's a great question. I think it's like anything in this world, it kind of depends, but we try to to preface, I think both of these are relevancy. Both of these marketplaces are relevancy machines, and I think one of the biggest variables to relevance is time. And so we are always trying to dissuading, I'd say, our brand partners from knee-jerk reactions every couple of days or even a couple of weeks. So realistically, we think it's at least a 30-day time frame before we have an accurate read on whether your ad is performing or your creative is performing. So that's probably the first touch point where we start to actually do a proper analysis. And then kind of depending on how that's going, we might determine internally that we need some more time and more data to make an informed decision, to have a statistical significance, let's say. Or we might see something that's really glaring in our face, like, hey, something's really off, so let's pivot here. So I'd say, to put simply, a 30-day kind of mark is really when we start deeper analyses.
Great, 30 days. I think that's really great. And then what about A/B testing? What do you recommend, different content types and styles to A/B test?
Yeah, I think it can range. So it also just depends on what your goals are. So we've had, certain brand partners that are like, we think there's really an opportunity for subscriptions and kind of like driving that home. So we might test content that's just purely product specific and content that might lean a little bit more subscription heavy, and just seeing what responsive we get out of the two. But I do think you should make them different enough where you can really tell what people are responding to. If they're too similar, I think that can kind of muddy the waters a little bit. So whether that's doing more of a studio shot versus a lifestyle shot, changing the way the text is overlaid, just making sure that those differences are clear.
Okay, great, fantastic.
I think one other thing on that, Erica, I think an important area from a testing perspective is, if you're a brand that's kind of launching a product in a newer segment or kind of an adjacent category, Emily's example earlier of kind of freeze-dried foods, and maybe they're going to introduce a coffee product, let's say, then kind of testing different messaging that's going to be a little more relevant to a coffee drinker in the woods as opposed to a hardcore kind of backpacker. Just kind of see, maybe there's somebody that's not the hardcore backpacker that's spending 8 days in the woods, but likes to camp, for a couple days on the weekend and wants to have, good coffee ready to go. So I think that's kind of another example of where you might, if you're launching something that's kind of in a fringe category or an adjacent one, area to kind of get a read on how well are you resonating within that newer sector.
Great. Okay. Talking about Amazon specifically, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see some of your customers make with Amazon?
I think making things not clear is the biggest thing that we see. So just you want to make sure that you're prioritizing your content on the page. So the highest heavy hitting information and the product shots that are the clearest should be up at the front. Like we said, making sure that's very clear. And then as you get lower on the page, you can definitely provide more information or different shots of the product. But we don't want to get too into the weeds or you're going to lose people's attention. They're not going to stick with you throughout the remainder of the images, and they might get distracted by an ad or a different product that's on the page. So I would just say doing more with less is usually what we lean into and see the most from.
I think another one to build on that is, brands assuming that customers are going to read every single aspect of your detail page, which just doesn't happen. And I think also leaning more into, or too much so into kind of romance copy. Again, Amazon, Walmart, Amazon specifically, they're marketplaces. So SEO needs to be as important as kind of that romance copy and kind of, again, being open-minded to the fact that your brand might be positioned slightly differently within Amazon as it is your own kind of website. And so just not, again, getting like handcuffed to sort of a particular positioning or, verbiage, if you will.
No, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so it looks like we have a question here from Angie. I'll put it up on the screen. Should every listing be redesigned with holiday touches?
I would say likely not. I think the biggest priority should just making sure that your listings are complete. If you do have listings that definitely are more holiday centric, or that you can really lean into holiday, I would. But I'd say the areas that you can really make more holiday and cover a larger breadth of your catalog would be through the A+ content, the brand story, or through your brand shop in store on Walmart. Making sure that those speak a little bit more to holiday or just easy ways to cater more to more products, and not just have to go through every single one in your catalog.
I know something you mentioned was really the use of UGC. We're seeing a ton across Walmart listings and Amazon. And, how important is video to listings nowadays, right?
Absolutely critical, I would say.
Yes, I echo that. Huge engagement rate too. It's just easy for people to understand. It's easy for them to just click and not have to scroll. So I think having it wherever it's available, especially with certain components throughout these marketplaces, there's things like looping video where it plays without somebody actually having to click on it. It just easily captures somebody's attention.
And I think too with UGC, what's really great is, you can definitely show a lot of unboxing, right? So it's holiday related, but not necessarily holiday themed, right? Unwrapping, unboxing, that type of UGC content is really great.
Absolutely.
Another question we have here from Mackenzie. is what is the best content to put in the brand story on Amazon?
Yeah, so we got really excited when the brand story was released because it was interactive for a customer where you're able to scroll through in that carousel format. And you just want to make sure that you're keeping it high enough level and give like a true look into your brand. People want to connect with the brand. So if you are a brand that's very eco-conscious, like make sure you're covering that. And then you also have the opportunity to cross merchandise. So there are modules in there where you're able to add products that link out to pages or link out to the brand store. So we've even just showcased different collections within the brand, different categories. And speaking more to holiday, you could even do a holiday specific one. And we've organized it based on stocking stuffers, gifts for her, gifts for him, and categorize it that way. But we like to keep it more high level and not too information heavy. It's more of just that visual component to keep someone scrolling and increase that branded real estate throughout the page.
Love that. Another question we have here from Joe: how important is alt text for product images on Walmart?
So I can take a stab at that one, Emily. I think very similar to kind of some of those. Well, I guess the alt text on a A+, for example. I think I can't give. I don't think we know a specific impact from a data perspective, but it is all around SEO for your listing. So I would say it is important. Now, how important? I don't know if we would be able to know, or I don't know if Walmart would even publish that information. But we do know it is a variable into kind of indexing from an SEO perspective on Walmart.com. Emily, anything you might have on that?
No, that completely echoes it. Yeah, it's definitely just more of an SEO component that they take into account.
Great. So one of my last questions, I know, Stephen, you mentioned that you really want your content, I love this, to pass the grandma test. How can brands look at their content today and sort of gut check the grandma test? Like, what are some things that they can do?
Yeah. So, I think one of the first things is don't ask anybody in your organization what they think. It's kind of, you can do focus groups, of course, if you're putting some money behind this, but I think it's asking not strangers, but, asking people kind of within your network, for honest feedback. I think that's kind of where we're talking about keeping that open mind. It's very easy to just assume that I know everything about your brand the same way that you do. And that's just never going to be the case. So I think it's a lot of just getting kind of a true outside perspective in so many ways. And yeah, Emily, anything else you might add on that?
Yeah, I think also just don't be afraid to look at competitors. It's okay if a competitor is, at the current moment, maybe outshining your listing, but take note as to like why and kind of the differences that it's making you feel, and if you would even purchase their product, and kind of take that objective look at it and just figure out, how you can position your content and just stand out a little bit amongst your competitors, but also find what's working.
And of course, one last here plug. Of course, that's something that we do all the time. So we're here and we do a lot of creative auditing and kind of offer things like that to really help give you that independent but also expert sort of opinion on sort of how we see your brand and listing kind of stack up with those competitors, or just to your website, things of that nature.
All right, that's fantastic. Okay, well, does anybody have any additional questions? If so, please add it into the chat. Emily and Stephen, thank you so much for your time today and putting together this presentation for us. We've learned a ton, and definitely, this video will be live on our YouTube. So if you missed the beginning or you want to revisit some of the content, you can check it out on our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, you can email me. And if you want to get a hold of Stephen and Emily, how can they do that?
Emily at Macarta.com, Stephen at Macarta.com, but also go to mygroupmacarta.com and we have a contact us. We're both on LinkedIn, of course, and happy to connect, directly or via our website sort of contact form. And I don't know if there's a way I can share our contact info, but definitely through the website, you can get a hold of us, or over LinkedIn.
All right. Well, thanks again. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Bye.